listening to the Pursuing Alpha podcast, hosted by Charles Brandon Snyder.
All right, Caleb Schneider, and it's a different Snyder. I think it's
different Schneider.
It is.
It's the correct spelling of Schneider.
I got to give you that one. It is the correct spelling of Snyder. It's great to have you on the podcast, Caleb. I'm really honored to have you. And we've been friends for a long time here, but you've been associated with the firm for a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I can say that with air quotes inside of there. But introduce yourself. Take a few seconds here. And there's so many ways we can take this conversation. So I got a couple ideas in the back of my mind here that we're going to do. But who are you, buddy?
Right on. Nick said Caleb Schneider, the best way to spell Schneider. Nobody gets it right, grammatically incorrect all the way around. It's awesome. Yeah, 34 years old, born and raised in West Texas. Been in the safety world for oil and gas for the last decade as a professional career, married to my beautiful wife. Almost a decade, 2 kiddos, 3 and 1. Life is good, fitness enthusiast, like to jump around everything from football in college to CrossFit, bodybuilding, and most recently a marathon.
I know. I saw that. I'm so proud of you on that.
It was cold.
It was cold, but you were worried it's going to get too hot. And
yeah, no, that definitely was not an issue. I think I shivered for 4 hours after it was over.
And so when you say married to your beautiful wife and you look at you, now we got the videos up and going, it's the running joke was Barbie and Ken for a long time because you're such into the bodybuilding and everything else. And I actually shot you years back.
Yeah,
you
did.
in a bodybuilding contest, and me being not shooting in the way you're thinking probably, but photography. And man, that's still one of my most iconic favorite shots I've done when you were doing the ropes.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I'm in between that and shot. I love that shot. And we really did some harsh lighting and very dramatic lighting. It's still one of my best things I've ever shot in my professional career. I wouldn't say amateur career. Yeah, nowhere near professional level. But anyways, and I decided just as we started to get something in my eyes, so I'm going to sit there and rub it for the next 20 minutes.
That is the way it goes.
It is. So, hey, there's a lot of things we can dive in. So I kind of want to unwind a little bit and kind of talk about it. You say you're in oil and gas and in a servicing industry, which we got to unpack that because a lot of people don't understand what service industry and oil and gas is. But not only that, you just went through selling your business too.
Yeah, a couple years ago, post-COVID selling.
And that was, let's dive in that because I think a lot of our audience being a financial and, business podcast kind of wants to see what's the other side of that curtain if they've never sold and they're considering selling. Because I think you have some really good insight on that. What to do and what not to do, how to consider things, what not to consider. And so I want to dive into that a little bit. I also want to talk about a little time at Texas Tech, playing a little football. And you can't tell it, but I'm about 5'9" on a good day, right?
Standing on a box.
If I'm standing on a box. But you're what, 6'2", 6'3"?
6'2", yeah.
Yeah, 6'2". And so you played linebacker at Tech?
Signed as a linebacker, wasn't fast enough. They learned that on my first day, so I was a defensive lineman, like a pass rusher. And
so you did not weigh this when you were at Tech. Those photos of you when you were at Tech compared to what you are now is insanity.
A little heftier.
A little heftier. That'd be an understatement. You were a big boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've really taken that CrossFit and just working out to a whole different level. And it's pretty cool to watch and to hang out with you on sometimes. It makes me feel like crap. I try to limp along here, and I'm actually proud because we started our own diet and started doing intermittent fasting and sleeving that in for a week or so, and then we're going to start to working out on top of it. Everybody says be cautious on trying to change your eating habits at the same time you're trying to change your working out habits.
That's just a good way to set yourself up for
failure and burnout.
Just too much going on at once. Your culture shock, your body shock, and that's a good way to crash and burn.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, let's go talk about the business for a second. And then we'll pair back into the bodybuilding and owning a business and that side of it. And then also, your wife started. Dude, Jen got the recipe deal. She started the what is that? What's the name of it? Plug her real quick.
Shanny Be Fit is what she's calling it.
All right, so you got to spell that out.
SHANNY. Then BEFIT. Fit. Okay. You can find her on Instagram. She's creating an app right now. I think it launches January 1st is the target goal, but it's going to have everything from beginner, intermediate, advanced workouts, live classes, pre-recorded classes that you can actually work out along with her, or just a workout plan with the sample movements all through there that you go through the plan as you see fit. You got the movements to reference if you need it, if you don't know what a sumo squat is or something like that. Meal plans as well.
Meal plans is what I'm getting at.
The meal plans as
Jen
well.
already cooked her pea thing. It was the peas. I forgot the name of it.
Like a pea protein type deal, or
it was a dinner deal. It was like almost like a pasta.
Oh yeah, you do chickpea pasta.
Yeah, chickpea pasta.
Yeah, Bonza is the brand she likes to use.
That thing was amazing.
Yeah, I get those kind of meals for dinner at night which is awesome. She meal preps for me. She has a full meal prep guide in there of what to do. They're super cheap. They're not I think the first one was like $17 or something like that.
It was ridiculously cheap. Jen's like, I'm on board here. So I wanted to plug her because I think it's amazing what she's doing here, being a mom and starting to being an entrepreneur. But Chantel's already an entrepreneur. She's
100%.
She's has that bent into it. So if you get a chance, check her out. And we'll put a link. Ron, make sure we put a link to her her website.
Yeah, geared towards working moms and moms at home. That's kind of her target audience. Obviously, it can work for anybody, but definitely working moms at home. Anybody that's too busy to go to the gym, it's got stuff for at home, stuff for at the gym, a hybrid between the two. All of it's her filming herself doing everything, so it's been a big learning curve for her on all the technology side of things.
Right.
So it's been good for her though. She's been enjoying it.
Gives her something to kind of keep going.
Keep her hands busy.
Yeah, why she's got kids running around with her.
Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's good. So I'm excited for her. But hey, dive in for me real quick on what the company you sold, just so, and what is a service company in the oil and gas, and then what did y'all actually do?
All right, so you can break oil and gas companies into two halves. You can have the production companies, which is your guys like Chevron, Oxy, XTO, ExxonMobil, whoever it is, the production companies, the guys that actually own the oil, that produce the oil. Yeah. Then you've got your companies like Energy Transfer that ship the oil from one place to another. It goes to a refinery.
That's called a midstream.
Midstream, yeah. Yep. And then upstream is your plants and refineries, which are typically owned by Chevron and companies like that produce it into what it is today.
Okay.
Well, that's half of. They don't do all the work themselves. They own it. They facilitate. But there's the contract companies on the other side, which is the service companies. They're the ones that. Anything from your drilling companies that get the oil out of the ground to your pipeline construction companies that get it through that midstream process, all the way to the upstream side where you've got a refinery with maybe 100 Chevron employees and 3,000 contract employees that do everything from maintenance and welding to operate the plant and facility, safety, so on and so forth. So they're the side that a lot of these companies, there's too many moving pieces for these companies to employ this amount of people, and there's a lot of liability that goes with it too. So they kind of shed a lot of that weight and hire service companies.
That weight to somebody else.
Trucking company, your trucking company, something called a roustabout company, which is basically just your grunt hands that are out there doing, digging shovels, turning wrenches, doing whatever they've got to do, to high-end consulting.
Right.
Anything in between that's a service company in the oil field. Ours specifically was safety related. So we provided third-party safety training services to a lot of these companies, to other service companies, and to these large producing companies as well. We provided confined space rescue services for when guys are working in high intensity, high hazard environments. We were there to, in case something went wrong, pull them out. Right. I always told them whenever I worked those jobs that my job was to stand there and look pretty and do nothing else. Don't need me, please. But we're an extra set of eyes. We consulted. We made sure they were doing things safe and really watched out for them. We had rental equipment, fire extinguishers, things of that nature. So that's a 30,000.
You actually had and bought trailers at the time that just was air conditioners to cool people.
This massive porta-cool on a 18-foot trailer that's all it did. It had benches in there, and it kept them cool. In West Texas, we get heat index of 120 in July.
Yeah.
Guys fall out from heat stress really easily.
Yeah.
And so that's the only way to really help combat that.
And you got to think of it. I mean, these guys are not just like wearing shorts and a T-shirt. They're in like jackets and hard hats and they're
coveralls.
Coveralls,
full-blown
fire. 110 degrees outside. It's so cooling them down was a thing.
That's a big deal. Work rest ratio. There's OSHA has all these different charts out there. If it's 110 degree heat index, they should be working for 15 minutes and resting for 45. Things like that. Depending on the intensity of their workload. If it's moderate, light, or heavy intensity, depending on how much they would work. And a lot of companies, they're smart. When it gets to a certain temperature, they shut it down. Or you start early and get done early. I worked a lot of jobs in 110 degree heat where we started at 4 a.m. and we're done by noon. just to adjust to that.
Adjust to the 4 o'clock heat that you get in Central Texas.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Crazy. And so yours, and I want to break it down because I mean you gave it huge overview, but you went in there and you and Chantel, your wife actually started.
She started the whole thing. Yeah, she's the entrepreneur for sure.
She's great. And then you kind of stepped in and she wanted to take it easy a little bit and have a couple of kids. And
she got lazy on me. I'm going to pay for that.
Yeah, you're going to pay for that one. You definitely are. But anyways, you started running it and you kept growing it, and she helped you along the ways, and everything was great. And then, but you had to go get all the certifications. Are crazy.
There's quite a few of them. Yeah, there is. We trained in several places across the country to get the trainer certifications, your rescue certifications, your fire extinguisher license. I mean, anything that we did requires licensure of some form or fashion.
Right.
Some of it was just more, what would you call it? Generic language of verbiage of, you just have to be competent at it. But to be competent at something, that's, if you have a piece of paper saying you're competent at it because you went through a class, it's a whole lot better than saying, yeah, I'm good at that, and then taking your word for it. We live in a world of liability. Everybody sues you for a broken fingernail nowadays, and so it's all about CYA in those situations and make sure you cover yourself. That's good practice in any business, man. Don't think that your word is going to be good enough on a court stand. Because if it's not written down, it never happened, especially in the safety world.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said on that. There's a lot to unpack. But the cool thing about what you do is that you really came in there to a lot of companies and grew it on a multiple facet thing. So your business model wasn't, hey, I'm just going in and teach safety on this one thing. You actually had a lateral integration of their deals. But in order to get that, you had to start somewhere. So speak to the oil industry so people understand that MSAs are a thing.
Oh gosh, they're huge. Master service agreements, what that's called. On your smaller companies, you're dealing with, Joe D's trucking company down the street in Abilene or somewhere like that. Those don't work. You just set up as a vendor and you're good to go. But if you're going to work for these major players like Occidental Petroleum, like XTO, Exxon, Chevron, you have to get this master service agreement. And you can't just walk into the office and say, I want to work for you. It's all about connections. Who do you know? What can I offer you that someone else doesn't want to offer you, especially now? 10 years ago, it was a little easier to walk in and get an MSA because you knew somebody that wasn't as competitive a market. In the safety world, for example, anytime there's an oil boom, everybody wants to own a safety company because they think it's the easiest way to make money. And it is. It's not very labor intensive. And in that sense, you don't have to go buy a bunch of trucks, and it's a service-based industry, not so much an equipment-based. Your overhead's low. Providing a service, your biggest expense is your employee wages for the most part.
Sure.
And then you
got to get qualified good people. And that was I remember a couple of years, COVID time, working with you, and you're like, geez, Brandon, just the employees that you're having to train and get up to speed. And you're in the oil and gas industry, so the competitiveness of the industry is insane.
And the pay scale. There's some companies that will go and offer just ridiculous rates, and they can completely screw the entire market for everybody else. It's just like when somebody goes and sells their house for way cheaper than anybody else. Now your comps in that neighborhood just went to crap.
Right.
Same thing with pay, except the other way around. Somebody's paying a lot. Well, now you've got to fight for that. Well, that just kills your margins. And what are you willing to pay somebody, and where your margin's going to be set at? That's a big deal.
Sometimes you can't transfer that cost to the end user.
No, not at all. I mean, you're in these master service agreements, you're set up with a contractual price for so long, and you can go and negotiate, but they have all the bargaining ship power. One of my competitors recently just lost their contract because we went through and redid every safety company's MSA and their pricing specifically to a certain tier program that they wanted to see, which was great. I thought there was nothing wrong with it. The prices got to go up a little bit in some parts, got to go down a little bit. Well, one of my large competitors decided they were going to swing their weight and say, no, we're not going to play ball with y'all. We're going to say it our way. And they cut their contract out completely. So they completely lost it. So
you can lose that MSA.
Oh, absolutely. You can lose it. You can lose it for failed drug tests. You can lose it for too many accidents. You can lose it for not doing a good job, or just because somebody in procurement doesn't like you. So it's very competitive, very relationship driven, and you have to do a good job and stay in compliance. And that's something that our company helped a lot of people do, was stay in compliance in these things. I consulted on a lot of MSA audits for companies that were trying to get these, and they go through a safety audit, and there's massive checklists that they have to comply with. And that's exactly what I would go in there and do, is make sure they had everything right for that company, answered any questions they had, because they didn't have a safety person on their payroll. A lot of people don't want to pay for safety because they don't think they need it until it's too late. Just like insurance.
Right.
You don't think you need your home insurance till suddenly you're filing a claim because we had a hailstorm come through. Sure. Now you're glad you had it.
Right.
Safety's viewed as the same thing, over the insurance of the oil field.
And so you grew a company that was how many employees when you all started?
2. It was Chantel and I, with a couple contractors that we paid on a very part-time basis to just do some inspections for us. So in 2015 is when I stepped in with her full-time. Business started in 2013. I helped out part-time. I was a John Deere salesman at the same time. I think that's whenever you and I met.
Yeah.
Sold
that's
John Deere.
Crazy how long ago that was, dude.
A decade ago, man.
Right.
Nuts.
The thing is, you look younger and I look like I'm 60.
Just because I shaved.
You're going with the Travis Kelce. You're trying to impress
I am
Taylor
not going
Swift.
with Travis Kelce. No, I'm a big fan of Travis Kelce, but no, this mustache.
Mr. Pfizer?
No, oh, God bless. Don't even get me started on. I don't think we have enough to drink for that concert.
I had to throw that in there because, I mean, come on.
No, you've seen Top Gun Maverick. That's more the look on. Miles Teller's always.
There you go. I like that.
Kidding. No, it's November. It's Movember.
Yeah, I got to do it. But Jim would kill me. I think I've had the beard for almost 20 years now.
Have you really?
Yeah.
Have I never seen you without a beard?
No.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I guess it's just getting too much gray in there. It's starting to blend in.
If you can't tell me and Caleb have been around each other a little while. But yeah, there is a lot of gray, dude.
Mine's getting a lot of it, too.
I don't care what color it turns as long as it doesn't turn loose. And that's the problem that I'm having is mine's turning loose a little bit. So I digress.
I'll silver fox it all day long. Just
I would
don't go
too.
bald.
Yeah, and I'm going bald. I'm sorry. But anyways.
We'll see if I do or not.
So, hey, help me understand this thing. So you started with 2 people, and when you sold it, and we'll talk about selling here in a second. So when you sold it, how many employees or contractors did you have?
That was right after COVID. I think we had...
Or at your peak, whatever.
I would say at our peak, we were at 15, 16, somewhere in there, full-time employees, and a handful of probably 10 contractors.
Gross revenue of...
$3 million.
Yeah, there you go, man.
No, I'm sorry, 2.2. 2.2 was my best year, and then, like I said, we survived COVID. We went down to 900,000, just limping through that whole thing. But then
it was impossible time.
Just we all survived the best way we could, but we survived. We never got in a pinch. We had to lay off 1 employee the entire time. Some left us on their own because they weren't getting the hours. That was just kind of nature of the beast. But it was what it was, and we made it through there. And then in 21, we decided that we wanted to do something different. And so put it up for sale, merged with another company of a mutual relationship, and that merge happened and turned into a sale and just kind of blossomed from there.
And y'all sold to a huge, I can't say that word, but...
Yeah, so there was a stepping stone process. So we merged with another it wasn't a safety company, it was another service company that our services complemented each other very well. And then that merge turned into a sale a year later to one of those large
you can say it. I can't say it.
Private equity funded. Okay, I didn't realize I could say. Yeah, we sold to a private equity firm. Very, very rich private equity firm. Yeah. So.
And so when you look into that, so dive into that. So this is what I tell everybody, and there's things you have to understand when you run a business. And business owners don't look at this because they don't build a business to exit. They build a business because they have a passion in it. Does that make sense? And so when you go from, hey, I'm starting a business, you're trying to grind and create it and support your family and do all these things. But everybody's going to exit. That is a foregone conclusion. It's a finite. So the business is either going to go out of business, right? You're going to sell the business or you're going to pass it on. There's only 3 ways that works.
Yep.
And that kind of clicked a little bit on my audio. Am I clipping?
I'm not seeing any clipping.
Okay.
Talk a little bit more.
Sorry there. So there's only 3 ways to actually sell a business. And those 3 ways, are really just, you go out of business, right? You sell the business, or you succession it to the next generation or an employee or a competitor or so it's you migrated over. Succession is my favorite by far because it's the one that's the most stability that you can have in a business. So if you have a GM or a partner or something like that and transition it to the next generation, that's really, really cool to me because I like small businesses continuation. So when you got merged with the company and then you got bought. So what takeaway, because I want to get to the end punch first and then I want to unwind that. So what takeaway do you have that you would have done, hey, we did this right, and hey, we consider this thing?
I'd say one thing is when you sometimes when you get your mind made up to exit, you can do things really quickly and rashly that you should step back.
Rationally or irrationally?
I'm sorry, irrational. Being rash, sorry, is what I meant to say. Being rash, being irrational. Doing things too quickly, just getting your mind made up. I want out for whatever reason, whether you're burnout, you're tired, you're broke, you're about to go bank, whatever that is. Which we were not broke or about to go bankrupt. We were just
making money.
We were just tired. We were just, especially after getting through the COVID thing. I decided, you know what? I think I want to do something a little different, and just play this out a little bit. So I was ready to turn the reins over to somebody else. So I just kind of threw my hands up and let it all take place. There's a lot of due diligence that goes into a sale. A lot of people don't realize, like, you got to have your books in order. If you ever want to sell your business and your books aren't in order, you can might as well kiss that sale goodbye. Unless you're doing a succession where somebody doesn't.
So explain to me what you mean by books in the order.
So
how do you break that down?
Your financials. So
yeah, but what part of that? How deep do they dig?
Oh, tax, all the way down to your tax returns, to your payroll, to your insurance benefits. Were you compliant with everything? Is your money accounted for where it's supposed to be? How much revenue were you drawing in? Did your P&L say you were drawing in versus what your bank accounts were actually reflecting? Did you make your books inflate or deflate to look good at a lot of people will take their bookkeeping and their finances and dumb it down to where it doesn't look like they made a whole lot of money. They'll hide it in different places to make it look better for the IRS and the tax accountant.
Yeah, tax mitigation.
Exactly. But when
that,
you turn around and sell a business, that will devalue and undervalue your business very quickly. So you've got to flip the script really quickly or be able to explain it. So those are things which we didn't really have that much of an issue, thank goodness, in that. There wasn't a lot of going back and explaining and things. Like, we're a pretty cash heavy business, so that worked out really well in our favor. We didn't have much debt at all, and so that was also good. But just making sure your financials are in order across the board. Along with, during all that, we also went through a state tax audit at the exact same time.
Oh my God.
my poor office admin was pulling her hair out when all was said and done.
I could imagine. So let's break that down, right? Because you just unpacked so much that I can jump into, right? So most businesses run fat. I just call it running fat.
Yeah.
They throw vehicles, they travel on the business, and it's all legitimate business needs, right? But they are doing things that other companies that want to look at profit only would not consider doing or may do it differently. So what you have to do is you strip all of that out. So all of the excess, sometimes people buy planes, sometimes they buy vehicles,
Groceries, life insurance, you name it, it's ran through the business. You've got to take that out of the equation and show they're looking for the true hard numbers. When they're
which is EBITDA, right? So it's your add back. So you're adding back all of those expenses that should not have been in the business. If somebody just ran the business as vanilla as you can, here's the gross revenue minus expenses, cost of goods sold, right? Operating expensive, CapEx, all that, and then you get your net out of that. So you have to do all that due diligence to figure all that out, and it's very time consuming.
Yeah, it took and this one was a fast one. This was 6 months, and it was because there was a timeline for everybody, all parties involved. That should have taken at least a year, I think, honestly. I think it was between what my business was and what the other business was and everything, it should have gone faster. It definitely, it should have gone slower. It definitely should have
So
been.
would you say that on the front end, if anybody's considering to do the business, here's what I say. It took you 2 seconds to start a business. It took you years to build it. But you need to exit it. I always tell people, look at 2 to 3 years to exit.
Yeah, I think that's right. To get you've got to get, another thing to consider. If you run your business, are you going to stay on and run that business? Or do you plan on exiting with the sale of the business? Because that's a big thing. Because if you are the face of the business and you turn around and sell it and suddenly you step away, that business value just got cut significantly down. Your business is about 7 times more valuable if you are not the face of your business in a sense of workers going. You told me that years ago.
And I would say this, when I sit down and I talk to a lot of business owners, and my dad, I lot this from my dad. My dad's passed this year, but he was the hardest working guy I've ever met. And whether it was just him and my mom just worked their tails off all the time. She still does. She still works 60, 70 hours a week, and she's 65 years old, 66 years old. So, but people believe that it's, the old culture believed that it's a great thing to overwork in their business because it shows dedication, and it really does.
And 100%.
It does. But the problem is if I'm buying your business and you're having to work 70 hours a week to run that business, I'm buying it. I don't want to work 70 hours in your business. I want to buy a company that you're only working 10 hours a week in your business because it's a well-oiled machine, right? And I have to coach business owners a lot of time. You need to set this thing up to make sure that you're not operating it.
And that's something that I never did. I tried doing it once and I failed dramatically. And so trying it again, I never got to that point. So now flash forward, I'm still working for the same company. We merged, name change, sold out again. I'm still there. I'm doing my same job duties for the most part, plus a whole lot more. Now being with a larger company comes with its perks of being able to hire a bunch of salesmen and operations managers and things like that to where I'm not doing the day-to-day. But I was a true owner operator where I went on half the jobs that were hired out. And that's what you call getting handcuffed to your business. And so by doing that, you need to have that layer of, if you look at an organizational chart, your layer of management along through your business development person. People, now you've got to stay involved in your business or they'll run away with it really fast.
Yeah, you got to know every number, every deal, every time. You got to be accountable.
And your clients have to know who you are too, but you're not out there doing the.
Yeah,
we
learned that the hard way this last couple months, didn't we, Ron?
And that will get you, man. That will. If you let somebody run off with the sales and never make contact with whoever they're doing sales with, if they decide to leave you, they take all that work with them, especially in the oil field. Good Lord. That's how people get hired in the oil field, is they come with their own work. They come with their set of clients, their revenue. That'll get anybody a job. That is your biggest bargaining chip with getting hired in the oil field for the service side, is coming in with your own set of clients and your own set of revenue to add to that company.
Yeah, it's crazy in every industry inside of there. As good as I look at business and I see the angles because I'm in the business, I study the business, I study the market, I study how business works. I still make mistakes too. And I trusted a good friend and hired a couple of people, and 6 months goes by and I pour in significant money into it, and then they walk up and say, "Hey, thanks for getting me going," and walks out, and they take 50% of the clients. And
happened to one of my cousin's husbands. Did that.
Yeah.
Let somebody run their business for him. He wanted to take a step back and go, take it a little easy, and he took it too easy, and it ran away from him. He ended up going bankrupt.
And the hard part of that is I had everything in place, but I didn't double check the P's and Q's.
Trust but verify.
Yeah, trust but verified. So it's one of my key things I talk about, and so I think Ryan learned a lesson on that one. Is that right, Ryan?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Yeah. That one stung. It didn't sting that bad, but it stung a little bit just because I really cared about young people growing up to be entrepreneurs, and that's a huge thing for me. So
absolutely,
I digress. But so if you went through that acquisition, I think you nailed that. Make sure financials are done, make sure agreements are in place, make sure employees are locked up. So things that you need is 162 executive bonuses to lock up. We had a situation where we put in a 162 executive bonus. You could have pursued that.
I could have. I just didn't. I lost a client over that whole deal too. Employee went to go work for another client that had a non-compete with that executive bonus. They said, "I'm going anyway." Client asked me to remove it. I said no, and I lost the client over the deal too. I could have pursued it. I didn't see the need for it though, because I didn't know how successful we would be in that. Honestly, it wasn't a big enough client to put up the fight. If it was half my revenue, yeah, we're going to battle. That wasn't work. That wasn't.
I know, and I looked at.
It's more of a principle thing.
It was a principle thing, and you were being so rational on that because of the simple fact that it's the risk, the reward, kind of.
Well, and you have a client. Like I said, the oil field is a very relationship-driven place, especially in the service world, especially in these smaller towns that surround the West Texas area. Everybody knows everybody. Owners know owners. Managers know managers. And if you get crossways with one of them, you could lose another handful of clients because you pissed one off, and they're all going to side with him, regardless of what was viewed,
whether it's ethical or not.
Exactly.
That's a good learning lesson, right? But I still think that business owners, and this is where a lot of employees, a lot of people don't realize that even though you're right, you still can come out bloody.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. And we had every right, because we had every right to go after that employee and make a mess of it, but it would have cost me way more in the long run if I would have done that. Yeah. If I would have done that.
Yeah, that's why I always look at character as such a big thing. Character and ethics. And in our world, because we deal with finances and money, ethics is everything.
Oh, 100%. Well,
it's-
integrity is the biggest thing I look for when I hire an employee. What are you going to do when nobody else is looking? Do you
Right.
do what you say you're going to do? And how do you act when nobody's around? Those are the two biggest things I look for when I hire somebody. And those are the hardest characters to judge too, because if they're a good interviewer or a good BSer to your face, that's really hard. You've got to watch them for a while.
Yeah.
That takes time. Typically, time shows that out.
Yeah, character is always one of those things that it takes time.
You just got to watch them. Most people you hire put them on a 90-day probationary period. That way, you've got to legitimately in writing out in case something goes wrong. You can fire them without cause because 90 days they're just not working out.
Right.
That's a good thing. Good way to protect yourself.
So when you went through your cell, right? What was the thing you did right? What was the thing you did wrong?
The thing I did right, I would say, was we ran our business well. We had a good team. Everything was going well as far as that goes. The due diligence checked out fine. Like I said, the finances were in order. One piece of advice I got from an attorney, a couple years prior to that, was don't pierce the corporate veil. I'm sure you've heard that before.
100%.
You're talking about running your business fat. Mixing things too much one way or the other.
So what Caleb's talking about, run everything through the business and don't commingle things between entities or personal to entities.
Exactly.
Keep everything in its silo, right?
Exactly.
So corporate assets are corporate assets, corporate bank accounts are corporate bank accounts.
And that
Right,
that was more because when we were using our corporate account to buy groceries and stuff just for the house, make our electric payment, because we grew so fast. I mean, you remember how fast we grew when that hit. My gosh.
But y'all were running just as a sole proper. It's like a regular business. You know what I'm saying? A small little business. Y'all haven't.
And then
really
suddenly we had 10 employees, and we had to step back and think, oh my gosh. And that's one thing he said was like, don't pierce the corporate from a liability standpoint, because if you're doing that, then you get sued. That LLC just became a personal asset, and they can go after everything but your home.
Right.
And so that was why that piece of advice helped. So we were doing things right in that sense, where I guess our noses were clean when it came time to sell the business. What I could say, that's the best way to put this. You can trust whoever you want to trust. You can have all the faith in the world in somebody, but like I said earlier, if it's not in writing, it never happened. Always get any business dealing in writing and have your own representation. Yeah. That was the one thing I didn't do and this was all in good faith, no ill will, nothing like that, but took somebody at their word and didn't have my own representation. So when things went south in a completely a whole other conversation I won't get into, but when things went south in a different realm, I was left out in the cold because I had nothing to stand on. And so that's something, always get it in writing, always double check, have your own representation, your own legal representation, or read it yourself or whatever it is, but have it in writing of everything that's going to happen. Or that's supposed to happen, I guess. Protect yourself.
100%. Me and you had this conversation. Right? And so it's not assault in a wound.
No,
I'm saying
not at all.
It is like double check everything.
Exactly.
Right? Check it, double check it, trust but verify, keep going, double check it and put it in writing, get everything going. Here's what I tell every single business owner I've ever worked with. You have players on your team. And the order of operations I've ever seen when somebody says, hey, I'm going to sell, or I'm in the middle, or somebody's want to buy me, is they talk to who the first person you talk to is their attorney. Second one's their CPA, right? The third guy that always gets left out is typically the financial planner or financial advisor. They get pulled in post-transaction or near post-transaction. And if they're good, right? If their expertise is actual in and I'm not saying that every financial advisor is like this and every financial planner is like this,
of course,
right? But if they're really have the structure like what we pride ourselves on, that have tax attorneys, have certified valuation analysts, has all of these guys in their team, CPAs, right? Have all these on their team, they should be kind of coordinating, and I always say, be the quarterback, right? You're the coach. You tell us which play to run. We make sure the right guy's on the field. Because there's things that you need a CCIM in real estate to evaluate your real estate, because most businesses have real estate, right? And a lot of them do. And so you got to evaluate real estate, you got to evaluate the business, and you got to get your own valuations. You got to make sure the language inside the agreement is right with your attorney. Then you got to talk to a tax attorney and make sure, hey, if I get this money, my deal, and I get so much pushback on this, and I got pushback from my dad, whatever you value your business at today, cut it in half. Cut it in half. Whatever you think it's going to be, you're going to lose 23.8% in capital gains tax, depending on the structure of the sale, whether it's an asset-based sale or stock sale, right? There's other ways that you can sell it, but that's the two typical ways, right? Asset-based or stock sale. If it's an asset-based, you're going to recapture the depreciation that you have in all your vehicles and your real estate and all that stuff. So it could be 30%, 40%, right? If it's a stock sale, you're at 23.8, but then you typically do not sell, if you're a small business owner, sell for the value that you have in it. And here's the reason why. There's really good reasons. But the number one reason is you got up at 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning, and went to work. The blood, sweat, and tears that you had to make that business work has more value than what you can sell it for. So you're going to probably lose 10, 15, 20, 30% of the valuation, and you're going to lose 23 to 50% of the other valuation. So discount your business by 50%. What's the downside to that?
You're not getting as much money as you thought you were going to. I mean,
mentally, if you go into it, right, you're getting half the value
you feel like
of the
you're
business.
giving it away.
You can feel like you're giving it away, but it's a feeling. But if we end up, or when I say when we work with companies that start companies and sell companies, if we end up selling it and you think it's a $10 million business and it sells for 7 and you thought it was 5, you get a bigger yacht than you do a dinghy. You see what I'm saying? But if you go in and think it's worth 10 and you sold it for 7, now there's a gap inside of your retirement plan.
Yep. Yeah, 100%.
You see what I'm saying? And that's the thing. So there's very little downside that I tell people by underestimating the value of your business. There's a tremendous downside if you evaluate what the sell of your business is. And so when you unwind that, so I said hey, two sides of it. You said, here's what you did great, right? You explained that really, really well. You did not get everything in writing that you thought you should have because you didn't know, right?
Well, and I will also say this: don't trust somebody else to do your business deal for you.
Yeah,
that's a big one. Oh yeah, I've got you. And people will most likely have your best interest at heart. I don't think people lie when they say that, but also people will do what they need to do to make a deal close sometimes, and that could leave you out in the cold, or not getting exactly what you thought you were supposed to, or what you might have agreed to. So, do your own deals. Whatever you think is fair, whatever you think you want it to be, now within reason. You don't be greedy, don't be a Scrooge about it, but trust in what you think is right as well, and value that, and don't value somebody else that's tied into the deal. Like you said, you have that team. They have no skin in the game as far as, well, if he sells this business, I'm getting 10% or I'm getting that. And you just got a team around you that's looking. Your advisors are looking out for your best interest. If you're selling it or doing a business deal with somebody, don't just trust that person to handle the entire thing and you do nothing.
I always say this is you need to I forgot where this came from, but I just remember the concept. So you always have to have the guy on your team that answers the black swan or the nuclear option, right? If this goes bad, how does it affect me? Does that make sense?
Yep.
And so that's the thing that I always look at on. So if this is not what I think, what am I missing? Where's my blind spot? That's the part that I look at as like, hey, make sure you have the perspective there that you're going like, there's got to be something missing.
Well, you can always get single track minded on something.
Yeah, man, tunnel vision is the biggest thing, right? Given wider perspective, we say just 2% wider perspective might solve a problem that you haven't looked at.
Absolutely.
And inside of there, but that is a great thing is do your own deal, do your own due diligence is what you're saying, and making sure that this pencils out in what the exit is. But the problem that I see with the exit is you need the factual basis of not the legal side, not the accounting side, not the advisor side, but what's I want this, I'm going to get this. Here's everything else that could go wrong, and weigh the pros and cons. Right?
And don't let your I guess urgency or excitement to exit sway your decision. That's another big one too, because especially after COVID, man, that was any business owner knows this, whether they survived it or they didn't. That was just a hard year altogether, and it wore a lot of us out. And that was one of the biggest reasons I wanted out of business ownership at the time, because that bout just mentally broke me. Not physically. Physically, I was fine. And financially, we were okay. We weren't where we were a year prior to that, but we were surviving. We were okay. We weren't, taking a second mortgage out on our house or anything like that, but it mentally just about broke me. That was a lot. It was about all I could handle because I stressed so much. I always said my employees were like my children, and I'm stressing about the fact of them getting to support their families was hard for me mentally. When I had to cut pay, when I had to lay the one employee off, that I lost sleep over that. So that was my reason for wanting to exit more than anything. Was I was exhausted after that, and I wanted to take a break from business ownership for a little bit. In hindsight, I probably shouldn't have, because now the oil field has boomed over the last 2 years, and I could have made a lot more money than I have been, just because hindsight's always 20/20, right?
It is.
But that urgency to exit, unless it's a short sale and you're about to go bankrupt, and this is the difference of you keeping your home or not, don't let that urgency get in the way of your decision making.
You got to have the clear. And this is one thing. Here's the thing about managing money that I've done. And I've done it for 13 years. And I will tell you, the one and sole reason why I pay stupid amount of money to have great gifted people on my team, like Dr. Starr and Marco and Mark Bearfield, all the other guys on our investment committee, is emotional bias is a thing.
Oh, massively.
It is a thing. And whether it's a business deal or if it's a, managing money, if somebody sees the stock market go down or they see their business go down, it's that urgency to correct the problem. It's there. It happens, right? And so you have to have that other voice in the side of your head. And I trust my guys in there. And we've gone to battle in our investment committee meetings because it's like there is a deep, deep passion to make sure we do everything we can do to help benefit our clients. But sometimes the market does not participate. And so you have to make sure that you're doing everything to do the best thing and hiring the best people around you to give you that, economic bias or risk bias that you have to make sure you're doing what's right. That is one of the biggest things I think we have. And I think you articulated that really, really well on, hey, you went through you got beat up, you got bloody, you got a nose, right? And so the easiest reaction and the most pertinent reaction is we made it through this. A lot of other ones didn't, right? And so now we're valuable and we could sell. So what's the thing that you did a lot of things right, you did wrong on it. Will you go back to it?
Go back to what I was already doing?
I just go back into being a business owner.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I definitely would. I definitely would. You work for somebody for so long. You're your own boss for so long, and suddenly you go and now you have a boss, especially doing the same job you're doing. I love the people I work with now. Fantastic people, but it's not the same. I will say that. I just bought into a franchise called Health Source Chiropractic. And so I'm going to be opening up 2 locations in Lubbock over the next 2 years of chiropractic and rehab facilities here in town to get myself back into business ownership. A little bit different model than the school of hard knocks of starting your own business from scratch. There's some pros and cons to it. You're giving some money away in royalties and marketing and things like that, but you have a clear path laid out for you of exactly what to do.
You got a good framework that knows the success.
Well, and I've always liked this specific industry, the rehab and chiropractic, but I'm not a chiropractor, and nor is it in my wheelhouse, and I feel like this is a good way to
But I think
learn.
it fits you.
Oh, it fits my lifestyle. It fits the things I'm interested in. I've been a chiropractor advocate for years. Good friends with a lot of them here locally.
I know you are.
And so I think it's
a
just
good client of ours is mutual friends.
Right on, absolutely, yeah. And I think it's I love the business model. I love everything about it. I can't do a lot of it, but that also puts me in a position where I can't be handcuffed to my business like I used to be. I legally cannot go and pop somebody's back, and I think that's the separation that I need to be a true business owner, because I'm too much of a get in and get your hands dirty type person. And so I think it's a good barrier to allow me to step back and actually be that owner and grow multiple locations.
We've talked about this a couple of times now. We actually went to lunch over this last month.
Yep.
We really analyzed it, and I gave you my 2 cents and the risk value of it and everything that's inside of it. So I'm excited about what you do, because I know you're going to be extremely successful in what you do, because one, the passion that you have not only with business but also with your employees, and with you're always like, the money's going to come. I say that to my team all the time. The money's going to come. You just got to enjoy the journey as much as you do the destination of what you're trying to accomplish inside of there. And I think that's the fun part of it. So we got through the business side of it. I want to talk about Tech though a little bit,
Oh, okay.
especially after a couple of things happened in Texas. So Texas Tech Rangers won this week.
The Texas Rangers.
All right, yeah, Texas Tech. Texas Rangers. I
Well, Texas Tech Rangers. Josh Young's there. We can go with that.
Hey, we can go with that, right?
We can go
Josh
with that.
Young, rookie, third baseman. He had a pretty good.
He'd have been rookie of the
postseason.
year if he wouldn't have had to dip
Broke
out for
his
part of the year.
Thumb. That was a fluke deal that he broke
I
his
know.
thumb. It's crazy, but I think he's going to become. Not only was an All-Star his rookie year, but I think he's going to be one of the top 25 baseball players, if not the top 10, in the next 3 to 5 years.
Oh,
Give him a
absolutely.
couple of years to mature, and
I mean, his hitting was kind of hit or miss, especially in the World Series. But God, his fielding was impeccable.
unbelievable.
I mean, he
that
was- he
one-handed deal off of Schwartzer's back.
Yes. Yes.
Jeez, that
Yeah.
was just unbelievable.
Which could you imagine taking a baseball to the elbow,
to the elbow in the back?
yeah, on your throwing arm? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, no thanks.
No thanks either. Yeah, I played a little baseball. I know that hurts a little bit.
Yeah, you were catcher at LCU, right?
No, I'm left-handed, so I played center field, right field inside of there, but I caught it. So I caught a 94, 96 mile an hour, somewhere right around there, fastball. And so they teach you to duck into the ball. And when I ducked in, there's meat here, there's ribs there, and then there's meat on your back. I caught it just right inside of that spot where there's nothing but ribs, and I cracked 2 ribs.
Oof.
And that was the worst feeling I've had in baseball. And that whole thing blackened up, and I still have video and photos of like the next couple of days afterwards, and it's gruesome. But and I broke a couple ankles. I'm 5'9" best. I'm like literally 5'8.5" probably, and I was I gained a lot of weight. I was 145, 150 coming out of high school, very fast and could slap the ball around all the way. And I just outworked a lot of people. That's the only reason that I played any type of college ball. I let that slide a little bit in college, and so
I can relate. I can relate.
You know what I'm saying? You it's such a new atmosphere, and I didn't have the structure around me, and I learned that you need structure around you to be successful. And so I let that slide a little bit inside of there, but I ended up, but the working out and the playing ball, never, but the school side, the social side, it's just like you have no parents around you to tell you to do things, right? So it's you. And I dang sure made sure my 19-year-old has that structure around her to let her make her own decisions, but also give her the structure that, hey, this is what's going to come after you. And you need to make sure that you see it coming. And anyways, I went from 145, 150 to I think I was 182 by the time I was, I gained the weight, I ate right. And I was probably as high as I could get as far as, because I just, in baseball, in any sport, it's all about power.
Yeah.
It is soul power. And I don't know, what you come out of?
So I came out of, I went to a 1A high school. And so going from 1A to D1 football was
That's insanity.
the biggest culture shock of my life.
So were you 6'2" out of high school?
Pretty much, yeah. I was pretty much done growing by the time I graduated.
Okay.
I was weighing in season my senior year, I think I weighed 205. I think I got up to 220. I got hooked up with one of the physical therapists who was a power lifter that worked at Tech in the football department, and I trained with him from basically January to August. And he's the one, it's not about what you know, but who you know. He got my film in the right hands and got it to Ruffin McNeil, who was the defensive coordinator at the time, and that's how I got a preferred walk-on status. So I wasn't recruited, but I didn't have to try out. So no scholarship, but no trying out either, which was great. So I got to start whenever I enrolled in August. Just came in right after 2 days of the first week of school and got to jump in and be on the practice squad. Lincoln Riley was actually the guy that called me and told me that I got recruited.
That's crazy.
Which was
Lincoln
cool.
Riley's USC's head coach now.
USC's head coach, was at OU, Heisman Trophy winners and the whole 9 yards. Yeah. And actually his little brother, Garrett Riley, who was the OC at TCU last year in the national championship, now he's at Clemson. We were the same freshman class.
That's nuts.
He was also a quarterback.
What's it like playing at that level? I did not play at that level.
It's a full-time job. Well,
it was a full-time job for me, and I didn't treat it that way, and I wish I would have.
And see, same. So I can definitely relate. I worked my tail off in high school, and I was a big fish in a small pond, but I still worked harder than anybody else could have ever imagined. But it's almost like I got to college, I got to my goal of playing Division I football, and then I let off the gas.
Right. It's like I'm here, right? I'm at the show.
I discovered alcohol. I did all these things.
Yeah.
I think back, obviously, You can look at life one of two ways. You can look back and think, man, what all would I have done different and all these things, but then that would mean you wouldn't be where you are now. So if you're completely happy with where you are now, don't live in that. Don't live in that. You can't change it regardless, but you can
can't
learn.
change it, but you got to learn from it. And I want to give that, and I gave that to my 18-year-old when she could have gone and played college ball. She could have played college softball, hands down. And she chose not to because she really wanted to focus on being a doctor. And so I think she's in the right fit. But I agree with you 100% inside of that.
Oh, absolutely, man. And same thing. I wanted to be a doctor as well. I was valedictorian in my high school and was ready to go rock and roll with it. I discovered alcohol. I discovered all these things that, 19-year-olds discover when they go to college. And I mean, went from working out all the time to the bare minimum that they made me work out. I gained a bunch of weight, not the right. They wanted me to gain weight. I had to gain weight, but I gained it the wrong way. I was 260 whenever I left 2 years later, and that was a lot of Raising Cane's and McDonald's at 3 a.m. coming home from Wild West.
Right.
So it was fun. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. In hindsight, I wish I would have taken it more serious, just like you're talking about. I wish I would have, school was school. I was never had to crack open a book in high school, so college, I didn't even know how to read a syllabus.
Right.
My very first week in school, I had a we always had Friday quizzes in psychology, and I missed that note at 8 a.m. on Friday, and I got to class 10 minutes late and missed it and had a 0 and had to fight back through that the entire semester. So a lot of life lessons learned really quickly. I think I remember calling my principal the second week of school asking if I could go back to high school. It was just such a, graduating with 34 kids to suddenly I'm in classes with 500 kids, and each one of them was just, good Lord, I wasn't ready for it.
Right.
Football was fun. It was a lot of fun, but it was hard.
Isn't it funny how you can see talent, though?
Oh.
Like, that's the one thing I took away. Like, I walked onto that baseball field going, holy cow. And here's the thing. High school kids think they're good. Mm-hmm. They are not good.
No, they can't touch them. Absolutely. They can't touch them.
And so I was fortunate. The only reason I played some college ball, I played 2 years, got hurt. And not just because I got hurt. I just literally came to the realization that, I broke an ankle, rib, car accident, and this is not my body was wearing out at that point in time, and it just stopped being fun at all. But the only reason, as Phil Bryant pitched with Nolan Ryan, he was at LCU where I went to LCU, and he told me the difference of a professional athlete and a high school athlete, and this stuck with me. It's one of those moments I could still see saying it. He just goes, a high school athlete brings their A game 4 out of 10 times. A college athlete will bring it 6 out of 10 times. A professional D1, 7, D2, 8, a pro guy, he brings it 9 out of 10 times. And he goes, Brennan, the reason I couldn't make it in the pros, he made it in the pros, but he didn't make it like Nolan Ryan made it, right? He goes, I could not make my curveball 9 out of 10 times fall off the table. And he was a pitcher, and he couldn't. And then I looked at, so he was our actually assistant coach.
Oh, wow.
He wasn't even the head coach. Our head coach was Brian Pitnello. Loved the man to this day. I see him all the time. And Pitt he's like 5'6", and he played AAA ball. He played all the way up into it.
Nice.
And the things that I learned from him was physical errors are very much not scrutinized in sports. And I think it is in business. Physical errors of and when you say physical errors, I would say in business, it's not physical. It's more common, hey, I made an error here and I admit to the error and this goes on, right? Repetitive errors or mental mistakes in a game, in a sports, of not hitting your cutoff man, right? Of just not knowing, not picking up a sign and doing what structurally is right. You still got to have the physical attributes, but I know there's a lot of professional athletes. There's a lot of guys out there that are literally do not have the talent of some of the other guys out there. And Phil Bryant was telling me this. He was like, I watch Jose Canseco, right? He was on there with him. He goes, that man had the most unbelievable physical talent you could ever believe, but not the work ethic.
Oh, absolutely.
Then he watched and played with Cal Ripken Jr. That he goes, even in his 40s, would outwork everybody, but you could tell he didn't have the physical talent. But he was so precise in everything he did that he never made a mistake.
Well, I mean, hard work will beat talent 9 times out of 10.
9 times out of 10.
I mean, hey, your talented guys are talented for a reason, but the hard work will outshine them most of the time.
And then you get those weird guys.
Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, that can put it all together. They've got both. They've got the talent, they've got the work ethic, and the drive, the not willing to sacrifice or take second place. It's unreal. Tim Grover, was the guy that he was the personal trainer for Michael Jordan and for Kobe, and then some other athletes too. His books are fantastic because that mindset that he's
What's the name again?
Tim Grover. The Relentless is one of his books. He's got a couple of them, and you can read them on audiobook. He reads them to you. He was just on the Tonight Show like last week.
I haven't picked that one up.
Oh man, he's good stuff. I mean, he talks about getting into the mind of both of those guys and kind of what he saw and how he trained them and how he became Michael Jordan. He was a personal trainer at some local gym in Chicago or some of the Chicago area, I believe, and he saw that Michael Jordan was, I can't remember exactly how it went, something along the lines of Michael Jordan wasn't quite where he needed to be, and I guess he talked about it in some post-press conferences or something. And he's like, I need to train that guy. And he wrote, this is back in the 80s. Like 87, 89, something like that, whenever Jordan had kind of just first gotten started, maybe early 90s, and hand wrote 17 letters and sent them to the Bulls organization until finally somebody picked up the letter and saw it, and Jordan gave him a call.
No kidding. That's how he started it?
Mm-hmm.
That's nuts. That is absolutely phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. Just that determination, not willing to quit, not willing to take second place, not willing to sit back. It's good, but a lot of people don't have that.
No.
And I mean, personal experience have fallen short of that plenty of times. That being satisfied. It's okay. I think it's okay to be content in life, but never be satisfied.
Yeah,
there's two different things. Not being satisfied means you can take the break off and I'm going to sit back. Being content is a good thing. Godliness with contentment is great gain. That's a verse in the Bible. That's a big deal. You want to be. God wants us to be content with our lives and not be greedy and always want more. In a sense of that we're not happy and not joyful, but it's okay to not be satisfied in a sense of I'm going to go and try to achieve more, but I'm completely content with what I've got.
Yeah, so I always look at this in that same vein, but I always say, like, God made us in a way to make today better than yesterday, and we look at tomorrow to be better than today, right? And so I think there is a lot of evidence in the world today. And the problem is I think the pedestal that people put it on is a monetary value. And I'm in this world of monetary value that I live in and day out. And I would say the journey of the pursuit of trying to be successful is 10 times better than actually trying to the goal to be successful. And the hard part about being successful is not if you don't achieve that goal. The hard part about being successful is when you do achieve it. When you do achieve it, there is a massive amount of depression that follows that.
Oh yeah, we live on a high for so long. It suddenly that high is gone.
I'm building. I'm going to reach it, and I reach it, and I'm like, this is it? There's no, this is it? That's all it is. And so I remember when I hit year 3, I hit a major milestone in our company, and I was like, this is it. This is it. Chairman's. And this is it. And I hit chairman's. I walked in the next week after that huge celebration. We went to a huge event and all that stuff. And I'm like, wow.
Now what? Yeah.
Now what? That sucks. And so I teach on that still today with clients is like, that's great. Let's have goals, and we'll have the pursuit of gain in what we try to accomplish. Right? But we want to make sure that the destination is always a foresight of just measuring where we were. And it's the pursuit of happiness. It's the pursuit of the joy of what we do, whether that's spiritually, mentally, physically, right? Relationship-wise, there's a lot to it. So,
physical fitness and exercise is the same way.
I know, man. I fall so short of that.
Well, and I've been there. Bodybuilding is the big, and I've talked to a lot of guys that are like this. You work your tail off for, a lot of people, they have off season where they're lifting, they're eating heavy, they're trying to gain that muscle, and then you go into show prep. Depending on where your body fat percentage is and your physiological makeup, it's anywhere from 12 to 16 weeks typically. You diet hard, you just live this such a regimented life to the point to where it's just, it's meticulously down to the gram of protein, carb, or fat that you're intaking. All this for this one moment on stage that lasts about a minute and a half. And that's it. And then once that's over, the high is gone, you get a chance to eat and drink and do whatever you want to do, but you're just like, people walk into the gym after a bodybuilding show, and it's just, especially if they've never done it before, or if they didn't,
like zombies almost.
They don't know what to do.
Yeah.
They're just like, what? And I experienced this in the 2 shows that you walk in, you're like, well, now what? And I just fought for that for so long. It wasn't as good as I thought. I didn't place as good as I wanted to, whatever, or I won the show, whatever, it doesn't matter. Now what do I do? Then you have to have a plan for after. For any goal that you set, you always have to have, just like you said with a business, you got to have an exit strategy. You got to have a plan for what's next. I didn't have that whenever we sold our current business. I thought, well, I'll stay on with this other business for a while, and we'll see what happens.
Sure.
I left it way too open-ended.
Right.
And 2 years later, I'm still there. I mean, like I said, I'm happy. I like the people I work with. Nothing wrong with that. But I didn't have.
You got lucky in that.
I got very lucky in that. Because a lot of times it doesn't go that way.
No. Most of the times it doesn't.
Most of the time you get asked to leave.
Yeah.
And luckily I didn't. I got a good team around me, good upper management and so forth. And I'm considered, I don't know, I guess a junior executive in this company, which is nice. Vice President of Safety is my title. But you've got to have something you got to be ready for the next step, whatever the next phase of life is. I mean, life or fitness or you see that way people watch Netflix
break that down
shows.
real quick, because I thought it was really interesting when you told me that, hey, you go through, and I get the workout. We're not going to get into the workout part, but when you go into the deals, you told me you like literally get sprayed up and down.
Yeah. Butt naked. You got a sock on yourself, and that's it.
and then you go to bed like this.
Oh, you feel so disgusting. Yeah, you basically you build yourself up to the point the week of the show, you carb load for however long. I think I did a sodium and carb load for 2 weeks of the last show that I did. And then come, like the show was on Saturday, so come Wednesday, you cut all the salt out, so your body just becomes a sponge and just starts soaking all that water up, and now you're starting to pound the water. I think I was up to 3 gallons a day, which is just astronomical. My drive to Dallas from Lubbock is 5 hours. It took me like 8 because I had to stop and pee so many times and eat and do all these things. But you're just chugging all this water, your carb load, you're doing all this thing, and then suddenly you cut it off 24 hours before you're supposed to walk on stage. Suddenly now your body just releases every bit, and they call it drying out. That's where they get that real dry, lean look, is because you literally just
every fiber in your body is seen on stage.
It's seen because you're dehydrated.
Right, but when you spray tan that, why are they darkening you? You told me this because it's the light,
it's
right?
Like this light right here. If that was brightened up really bright, imagine that. There's 15 of them on a stage. That white skin. Even people of color get spray tan because it keeps it from washing you out. So you can see the definition. The more tan you are, the more defined your muscles are. That's that way when you go to the beach. See somebody, you could have 2 exact same body types sitting next to each other, but one guy has got a nice, Puerto Rican tan. The other guy looks like he's from Minnesota, mayonnaise white. The guy from Puerto Rico is going to look a lot more.
That's great.
More defined than the other one, even though he may not be, but he looks that way because of the dark skin.
Yeah, and so you go into the show, and then how do you recover right after that? I always wondered that. I was like, do you start pounding water left and right because you're so dehydrated?
I remember at one point thinking, I don't even care about how hungry I am. I just want something to drink.
Yeah,
that's all I cared about. I'm thirsty right now.
Because don't you go like that last day? Isn't it like
it was an ounce or 2 of water every hour, pretty much just to wet your whistle whenever you ate, and that was it. Like, I remember I had to go, you do one last carb load. So I went and ate a burger at Denny's at like 7 a.m. the day of the show, but I couldn't drink anything to go with it. So I was literally chewing on ice chips, just trying to give myself just a little bit of something without actually, because as soon as I was taking too much water, my body was going to blow up. And so I had to be very careful that didn't happen.
And boxers have to do this, and like they have to go into like what is saunas and stuff like that, and they have to sweat out to get the weight because they might be a pound or 2 over.
And that happens in bodybuilding too. I mean, their bodybuilding classes have certain weight limits depending on what you're doing, and so you've got it. Mine had a weight. I was nowhere close to it, but I think I weighed 205 in my last show, and the weight limit was like 235. So
Hey Ryan, let's go into my Twisted Pixels photography whenever we get a chance and overlay. There's a couple of pictures of Caleb. You mind us?
That's fine. Yeah.
That is the there's like 3 photos that I have like featured on our deal. Let's make sure we put that on there. But that's I think that's so interesting from the sports side to the business side to the family side, and you got an amazing wife inside of there and the kids and everything else. Man, I appreciate you coming on. This was fun for me. I hope you enjoyed it inside of there. So hopefully I can get you on again and keep talking and keep going, and good luck to you. And the next time we probably do this, we're gonna have to talk about the new business that you got into.
Yeah,
So,
hopefully so. Hopefully it's operational by that point.
yeah, that's gonna be great, man.
I'm hoping for 6 months.
That's amazing. So I'm excited for you, and I'm sure we're gonna be working together a lot on that as we go.
Absolutely.
But I appreciate you coming on to Pursuing Alpha, buddy.
Yeah, man. I thank you for having me so much. It was a good time.
That's awesome. Talk to you soon.
See you, buddy.